I'm playing with this right now, so I'm going to jump into the live stream clips because I want to make sure the live stream is actually performing the way it needs to be. Shout out to you guys. Hit the like button. Say where you're watching from. Be interactive in the chat. Don't disrespect anybody. Mods, subs, support.
Very bad.
I've been off of social media. I had a few people tell me what was going on. I was like, that's crazy. I don't even got a Rolls Royce. What?
This is bad. Very, very bad. What's good, by the book fan? Pastor Frederick here. Now, Mike Todd, megachurch pastor and one of the many inspirations for Druski Skit, has addressed the Druski video. Now, his retort was anything but convincing. In fact, it just exacerbates the problem we have with the megachurch culture. And as Mike Todd gives his opinion, I don't know if they're Freudian slips or guilty conscience speaking, but he said some things that really worked against his own position. Let me show you.
There was a video that came out this past week with a few 100 million views, and some people were trying to link it to me. And so I watched the video. It was hilarious. It was funny. It was all this stuff. And then people started trying to say different things. And the thing that I was most taken aback by was how much frustration it created in people. Like, I was literally watching people go back and forth with people and denounce people and call people names and do stuff. And I stepped back for a second and I said, oh my gosh. All this was an attack on people's lives of distraction.
He said the skit was a distraction. Mike Todd is the king of distraction. Look at these very distracting sermon antics.
I know y'all looking at me crazy right now, but I'm looking at you crazy. Because I can see everything, but I can see everything with other things in front of it. Like Black Panther is playing right here. This is a complete different experience. I will believe what the word has said and what he said over my life. And some of y'all are scared because you've never jumped that high before.
We're going for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Easy money.
Especially one that somebody does to themselves comes from somebody who is not humble enough to submit to the vision of someone else. What I'm telling you is just as he's physically standing here, knowing what's coming, I'm about to give you, it might get nasty. And do you...
My goodness, Mike Todd's sermons look more like skits than Druski's actual skit. This is the epitome of a lack of self-awareness. Mike Todd is so consumed with attracting people's attention through visual aids that he's diminished the power of the Word of God. The Word of God is sufficient, and anyone who is claiming to be a teacher of the Word should believe that more than anything yet. Preachers who rely heavily on props and antics are distracting you from the very fact that they don't believe the Word of God is truly sufficient. They don't believe it's enough to keep people in the seats. So if they don't believe the Word of God is sufficient, things like this will happen.
It's just a temple. Syrup all over the communion. I don't care so much. Over the Bible, too.
I don't care if that was an illustration. The fact that he did that shows he has a lack of reverence for the Word of God. The Bible is the actual words of God. That's what a preacher is supposed to believe. He doesn't believe that. If he did, there's no way he would do that.
Do you know how many people didn't spend time with their kids this week? Fighting with somebody they don't know in the comments? Do you know how many people watch video after video after video making decisions about what they wouldn't do and what they will do? And if I ever, it was a distraction. There were people that did not do what God said to do this week because they needed to be in the know of what was happening in culture. And you thought it was some attack on the church. No, it was attack on your focus. How you feeling, Pastor Mike? I don't even know really what happened. Because I've been off of social media. I had a few people tell me what was going on. I was like, that's crazy. I don't even got a Rolls Royce. What?
See, and right here, like, for people who don't watch Pastor Mike often, they might think, like, he's doing too much here. Is he even being genuine? But, like, he really is, because Pastor Mike usually fasts from social media for his fast at the beginning of the year. And I would know that because years ago when Transformation Church used to fast, whether you are like what some churches will call a digital disciple, you know, you can go through the fast with the church, right, online, depending on however you can show up, whether you meet every single time they show up or you don't. But either way, the church talks about, especially the pastor, what is a part of their fast, right? So, of course, he also would fast from food. That's a given. But there's other things that he would add into that he would want to be intentional with. So he would put them a part of his fast, right? So one thing Pastor Mike Todd would fast from would be social media, right? And when he fasts from social media, the whole 21 days, or even if he wants to go 30 days, he's not on social media. He's not checking his DMs. He's not looking to see who's checking for him. He's not answering DMs and things like that. So if this thing if Druski Skit went viral online, which it did, there legitimately could be a case where Pastor Mike didn't know that it was going viral and he had no idea that this was happening. Because when he goes on a fast, social media is also one of the things that he fasts from.
Like I didn't know. Like I like people AIing pictures and doing stuff. I said I don't remember being that big. I was big, but I don't remember being that big. But you know what I'm saying? Like that was kind of the vibe.
Mike Todd saying that reminds me of the old adage, a hit dog will holler. Nobody accused him of having a Rolls Royce, but his guilty conscience came up. He's probably driving something equally expensive and unjustifiable. When he said that, it reminded me of when Stephen Furtick slipped up and said this.
Crazy. I feel like I just snorted cocaine or something. I'm so excited. And I never did that before. For the record. For the record. For the record. For the record. But I'm clapping my hands.
Did somebody accuse him of doing that, or did his guilty conscience come?
Your health deserves more than guesswork. At Prenuvo, our whole body MRI scans for hundreds of
Up? Who knows? We focus on shepherding the flock, not fleecing the sheep. Mike Todd said that skit distracted people from doing what God told them to do. My question is, why is a skit a distraction, but a football game isn't a distraction?
It was a distraction. There were people that did not do what God said to do this week.
Why isn't Mike Todd warning his followers, not congregants, but his followers, about the distraction of sports, the distraction of music concerts, the distraction of other viral videos not related to the church? Because those things don't indict him. Don't think for a second Mike Todd cares about what God wants you to do. If he really cared about that, he would be preaching the whole counsel of God and telling his followers to read the Bible for themselves. Mike Todd cares about what his followers watch, and he doesn't want them to think he was the subject of that skit. The reality is Mike Todd's name was not mentioned in the skit, but his antics inspired said skit, and Druski could have did a lot worse. Druski's skit wasn't a distraction. It was an indictment on these false churches and the flashy, money-hungry preachers. His skit exposed the real problem with the mega church model. Its life's blood is not Jesus, it's the almighty dollar. Those churches cannot function without millions of dollars being poured into them. So in that case, Jesus takes a back seat to antics. The scriptures take a back seat to antics. The cross takes a back seat to fancy logos, signs, and antics. Thankfully, that Druski skit didn't represent the majority of churches. Most churches are normal sizes, doing the work of the ministry, and no one ever hears about them. So don't be discouraged. God allowed Druski to make that skit to shed light on the wickedness of these churches. God used Druski to expose these charlatans, but there are many good churches out there that don't act like that. So keep praying for discernment. Mark and avoid Mike Todd because he clearly doesn't understand the seriousness of being a pastor. That's the problem. These megachurch pastors, they don't like to be held accountable. They make excuses for what they're doing. And people who make excuses.
Now, Pastor Fred, he produces good content. I have been a fan, a follower, a supporter of Pastor Mike Todd for many years. So I don't have anything bad to say about this. I totally understand why this would be his type of reaction to something like this. Like I said, he does fast from social media, so this legitimately could have gone viral, and he wasn't very much aware of it because he does tend to include social media in his fast. So shout out to you guys who are watching. Next up, we got Brian Taylor Cohen News. He covered Gavin Newsomes takes aim at Trump and ICE. Let's take a listen.
Weird. Who were serving under Hitler look like. And so for an administration that's so focused. I'm joined now by the co-host of Pod Save America and Obama's National Security Council spokesman, Tommy Vitor. Tommy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tommy, Gavin Newsom has managed to find a way to overshadow Donald Trump today by saying something particularly provocative on stage at Davos.
I was going to speak last night. It was a well-established event at the USA House. After Trump's speech, they made sure that I didn't. They made sure it was canceled. Any institution of independent thinking is under assault and attack by the Trump administration. You're seeing what's playing out in the streets of American cities, what played out in California, the second largest city in the United States of America. Masked men. Guy Greg Bovino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay. Citizens. So is it surprising the Trump administration didn't like my commentary and wanted to make sure that I was not allowed to speak? No.
So I want to talk about one thing in particular, and that is this idea that Greg Bovino, who's in charge of CBP, he showed up in this garb, and I'm going to put the side-by-side right here on the screen of what Bovino looks like and what, like, SS officers in the 1930s who were serving under Hitler looked like. And so for an administration that's so focused on optics, as this administration is, an administration so focused on marketing, as this administration is, as they have this like propaganda camera team following ICE on a daily basis, why offer up these optics if it's inevitable that people are going to draw those comparisons?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to claim that like he's had this jacket forever and it was issued
since 1930.
1941.
Since 1941.
It looks really weird. And like, look, there's all these images out there of Bovino in the field with other ICE officers or CBP officers. He's the only one dressed in a giant coat from the 1930s. Like, everyone else is wearing like North Face and a mask. You know, everyone looks completely normal, like thugs, but they look normal. And so like, it's a choice. He made a sartorial choice. He thinks he looks cool in this thing. But like, if I walked out to an event with you, Brian, and I was wearing a gray jacket with like two pockets fully buttoned at the top, and you're like, why are you dressed like Chairman Mao? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, it's a choice. You're wearing a ridiculous, gigantic greatcoat jacket that dictators in World War II wore.
Yeah. And of course, that's underscored by the fact that, there are the obvious similarities between what ICE is doing and what the Gestapo did about demanding papers from people on the streets, serving as judge, jury, and executioner where you just kill people.
I thought it was funny when Brian Tyler Cohen brought this up because Joe Rogan talked about this. Joe Rogan used that specific term too, Gestapo. He said, so this is what we're doing now. People are walking in the street and we're just stopping them like, where are your papers? Do you have your papers? I thought it was interesting that Joe Rogan brought that point up.
On the streets. And so, those notwithstanding, the fact that they also are dressing like them isn't lost on anybody. But I want to talk about Newsom for a moment because, he's really one of the only people who's out there, at least
who's kind of in the running unofficially for president in 2028, who's making this case. We're not really hearing much from a lot of the other folks who we would assume are contenders. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that whole process.
Yeah, I mean, look, one way to look like Donald Trump's opponent is to go out there and make yourself Donald Trump's opponent. I mean, he's just done such an effective job of that. I mean, some of it is the tweeting and the trolling, and that's been fun, and we've talked about that before, but he's also taken it overseas. Like, he went to the COP summit, the Climate Action Summit in Brazil earlier or last year, and then he went to Davos and was, I guess, going to give a speech at this thing called the Fortune USA House, which has some ties to the U.S. government. At least it was viewed as the official U.S. government venue for speakers and things, and then they canceled on him last minute. So Gavin went out and made this aggressive case that the government is trying to censor him, and in so doing, got exponentially more attention than he would have otherwise. So it's like, he's just been really smart and savvy.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this process play out. You and I had spoken offline about this idea that when Barry Weiss tried to kill the CCOT story on 60 Minutes, all it did is draw way more eyeballs to the CCOT story on 60 Minutes.
And they accidentally aired it in Canada.
And they aired it in Canada, and ultimately there was so much pressure that they had to air it in the United States anyway. So a story that would have just kind of come and gone like a fart in a hurricane instead garnered all this attention. But look, I think also what's important to note as far as the Newsom stuff is concerned, and this doesn't just have to do with Newsom. I think the same goes for any candidate. Is like, I think of this moment right here that we're in as the audition for 2028. And so if you're not willing to put yourself out there at a time where the country desperately needs it. I mean, watching ICE agents serve as this secret police force killing people on the streets, watching an unburdened, unbridled president declare war on NATO allies and try to annex our friends. If ever there was a moment for somebody to speak out, it's right now. But on top of that, like there's a Democratic Party that's desperate for leadership, that is rudderless, that it doesn't have a leader right now. And so if you want to make the case, 3 years from now that you deserve to be the leader of the party, but also the country, this is the moment to show that you're willing to do it when it actually matters, when people need some of that leadership, not just when it's convenient for you because you've got some filing deadline or because of campaign finances and what dates hit where before you have to start
officially say something.
Say something.
Exploratory committees, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. But Gavin Newsom has made himself like the proverbial fart in Trump's spacesuit.
Once a year I do a program that's for free. I started during COVID, and as they're shutting down all the states.
That shit just lingers. Like there were two big events that really broke through from Davos besides Trump kind of threatening to annex Greenland.
I'm just waiting for another fart pun.
Nope, that's all I got for today. And then kind of climbing down from his own remarks. It was Gavin Newsom kind of punching back, as we saw there. And then it was Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, who was like, everyone wake up. The international order as we knew it is over. We got to fight back.
And the people who recognize that, everybody unanimously understands that is the right approach. And so there is no excuse for the rest of the people, whether it's other European countries who are still engaging in this practice of appeasement, or frankly, other Democrats in the United States who think that the way to get something from Donald Trump, is to capitulate to him. Or non-Democrats, whatever, anybody in the United States who thinks that the way
Trump to be on them for that moment. But if everyone just kind of quietly looks away and ignores what's happening, we're all going to get hit eventually. This is coming for all of us. You're not going to avoid this wave that Trump has brought. I mean, this crackdown is insane. It's unconstitutional. It started with migrants, but who knows where it'll end.
And that weakness, I think, is especially pronounced right now. When Trump had banned the AP from coming into the press briefing room, no other outlet stood with the AP. They could have boycotted these press briefings. They didn't, which is ironic because a few years back, when you were in the White House, and Fox News of all places had issues with
getting access to an interview.
All of these other news outlets stood by them, and it was the Obama administration that actually relented on that, and Fox got what it wants. But you do that by virtue of having your friends and allies stand alongside you, and the fact that we're not seeing that today because it's just going to be easier, let's not push against the grain, whatever it may be, is ultimately going to hurt you in the end.
Yeah, the media piece is really important because Trump has like slowly chipped away at the independence of the media. He's controlled who can cover pooled press events, the smaller events that happen in the Oval or smaller venues. We've also seen over at the Department of Defense, they basically tried to force them to sign rules that would have essentially criminalized the job of being a reporter. So all those reporters had to walk out. And like, you know, the reporters over at the Department of Defense are doing an amazing job from outside the building. But, you know, they will have an erosion of access. They won't see people in the hallways. There will be less serendipity. And then over at the White House, Donald Trump does a press conference. And every third question is from like, My Pillow, you know, podcast or something, and it's like, why are you so great, sir? Like
North Korean state media.
North Korean state media, like, how cool is Bavino's coat, sir?
Yeah,
you know, and it's just like, fuck. I mean, it's just a steady erosion of any opportunity to hold this guy to account.
Yeah, well, now we have Nick Shirley, who's learning 3-syllable words in real time as he's become the top reporter on the right, benevolent, and
it is wild. I obviously greatly support independent media. And by the way, if you want to support independent progressive media, please subscribe to Brian's channel. Please subscribe to Pod Save America, because we're out here trying to report the news, trying to bring you guys facts, trying to do it from a progressive point of view. And it really matters when you follow us, because if you don't, people are going to find Nick Shirley's bullshit, the Daily Wire and TPUSA, right? So please give us a follow. It's free. But
you always wondered why that app didn't exist. Now you can make it. Meet Replit.
The way an independent journalist like him can come along, report something that seems salacious but is kind of complicated, and then Elon Musk can juice that story so it's the most viewed thing ever on Twitter. Not on the merits, not because it was exposed something particularly new. Like the fraud issues in Minnesota are real. They've been reported on. Like there's all kinds.
And they've been prosecuted since 2022.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just we are living in a very rigged media environment in favor of Donald Trump, and it just got worse today. Actually, I mean, I think there's about to be a forced sale of TikTok's U.S. components to a bunch of Trump fans and donors.
Yeah, and we've seen the consolidation of the media. I think that's one of the most dangerous and most underreported stories, because even as Trump continues to engage in all of this extrajudicial and overtly illegal, unconstitutional behavior and action, if nobody knows about it, it's like if a tree falls in the woods.
Exactly.
So we've lost CBS. CNN is on the chopping block because that's possibly up for sale to the same entity that the same consortium that David Ellison is involved in. TikTok obviously is a huge problem, and ironically enough, that's one of the most progressive skewing outlets, social media outlets that we have, because it's so young. The way that we're seeing this whole media space skewed to the right, ironically enough, under this pretense that all media is too liberal, and so they're unfairly being criticized, is just going to become more and more dangerous as they control more information and as they control more algorithms. And we've seen that the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world are willing to kowtow to Trump. Yep. Jeff Bezos is willing to kowtow to Trump. We've seen that the folks at TikTok are willing to kowtow to Trump. And as he puts more pressure, and to your exact point, as fewer and fewer other outlets, other companies stand by the people who are targeted, it's only going to be a matter of time until every single outlet falls. Yep. So again, that underscores the need for independent outlets right now to step up and fill that void, so that we're not just seeing the Barry Weissification of all media.
Yeah, and in some ways, look, the Barry Weissification thing is very frustrating. You hate to see an incredible establishment media property like 60 Minutes atrophy the way it is.
Yeah.
But in other ways, it's that's kind of the last battle. It's more what you're talking about, these new independent media sources and the way these algorithms are being juiced to support one side or the other. Because the greatest problem in politics for candidates is, for every freak like us who reads about politics every day, there's way more voters who maybe consume a couple hours of political news a month.
Sounds so healthy.
Must be really good.
Yeah, I can't imagine not having to ruin my day within the first 4 seconds of being by opening up Twitter.
You're you pardoned who? Crypto what? And so reaching those people, if any of those kind of low information casual voters heard that Donald Trump pardoned the former president of Honduras, who had been convicted of trafficking 400 tons of cocaine to the United States, I think they'd be pretty upset about it. Yeah. But odds are they will never hear about it because Donald Trump does something outrageous every 3 hours and keeps the media spinning and no one can focus on any one thing.
And to that point, I actually want to talk about distraction for one quick beat, because I know that with the Epstein stuff happening, that was kind of overshadowed by a lot of the enforcement action that we're seeing in Minnesota. It was overshadowed by a lot of the saber rattling happening in Greenland.
Yep.
And I had heard some people say, like, this is a distraction from what's happening with Epstein. And I think there is a way to consider that a distraction from talking about Epstein because we are distracted by it. But I think unto itself, it's more than a distraction. Like, Trump is just showing how overtly autocratic and dangerous and depraved and evil he is. Like, when you have these actions where he is blowing up the world order so that he can invade and annex a sovereign country and one of our own NATO allies, that's not just a distraction. Like that's basically like saying, don't pay attention. He's trying to distract you from this murder by murdering somebody else. Like, they're both bad and they can stand on their own 2 feet. And so I don't want to diminish the
guilty, because look how he says, like, no, we're not, and he tries to lend the explanation as to what he's doing.
The family's attorney and Columbia Heights School District leaders pled for the two to be released.
These are not illegal aliens. They came properly, they came legally, and are pursuing illegal pathways.
Attorney Mark Prokish says Liam and his dad entered into the U.S. at a port of entry legally in 2024 through the CBP-1 immigration app and are in the process of seeking asylum.
ICE didn't care about the fact that they had those pending claims and then just arrested them.
Today, DHS said Liam's father ran as they approached his car, abandoning Liam. DHS says federal agents made multiple attempts to get the mother inside the home to take custody of Liam and promised her they would not detain her as well. DHS says the mom refused to accept custody of the child, and the father told agents he wanted Liam to stay with him.
The sense of safety in our community and around our schools is shaken, and our hearts are shattered.
Mary Granlund is the school board chair for Columbia Heights Public Schools and was on scene when the two were detained.
There's ample opportunity to be able to safely hand that child off to adults.
DHS says this was a targeted enforcement to detain Arias. We could not find any criminal history or pending charges for him in Minnesota. Liam and his dad are originally from Ecuador. Lauren.
All right, thank you, Joe.
I'm going to show you how to take this old dresser drawer and turn it into...
I was reapplying for my work visa in the immigration office. I was doing everything completely legally.
I came to the US legally 11.5 years ago. I was granted asylum. Then I got a notice to appear in one of ICE's offices in June for what they called a routine check-in.
We went to Cancun for vacation with my family. When we came back, got on the plane, they pulled me aside. I didn't understand why.
They said, you need to reapply through the consulate and we need to send you back to Canada. And in my head, I thought that meant, okay, I'm just getting on a plane and going home.
I was never concerned. I had a green card. I traveled multiple times before out of the country.
I was sitting there looking for flights to go home and I was taken.
They were like, we have to detain you.
I was under arrest.
With no explanation. It felt like I had been kidnapped.
You're kidnapping me.
They said they are detaining and deporting people who are here illegally and criminals.
I was never in the country illegally.
I did not come here illegally.
It's legal from day one.
Having a mother taken away from their kids, I felt like a knife was just stab in my heart.
I never expected this in America.
I was taken to the first detention center in chains.
When I got there, I was like, where am I? And it was like a prison.
They took us to the booking. We're asked to strip naked in front of each other.
There were 30 of us in one cell, just like a line of bunks, and then open showers and toilets.
And we were supposed to use this toilet in front of 12, 14 other people.
If I wanted to use the bathroom, I felt violated.
What did we do to be treated this way? That is inhumane.
I was treated like a criminal, like I killed somebody.
And every single time I asked a question, it was, I'm not your case officer. I don't know. I'm just doing my job.
They said, listen, I know every one of you will say, I left my kids at home with no one to take care of them. I don't care. You will say that you haven't eaten anything all day long. I don't care. You say that you're terrified, you are here unjustly. I don't care.
It was super cold.
Freezing.
They nicknamed them the ice boxes.
I don't think it's more than 30 degrees.
We're huddled, trying to stay warm, wrapped in these aluminum foils, looking like dead bodies.
There's no window that you can look outside.
I never was able to breathe fresh air.
Fluorescent lights are shining 24/7.
I couldn't sleep. We could hear rats squeak. Oh.
One of the girls had her period and there was blood everywhere.
They knew I was a menstrual cycle, but was not offered to shower for 5 days.
This nurse comes in and she's like, pregnancy test. She made us pee in front of each other into these Dixie cups. We're all just standing there in a circle, holding our open urine, and she's plopping these pregnancy tests in and then being like, okay, you guys are gonna chuck it back in the toilet.
The food was horrible.
It was disgusting.
I ended up getting very sick.
I lost a lot of my weight, 20 pounds.
My body was really starting to shut down. I felt like, oh my goodness, am I gonna die here?
I worked as a journalist in Egypt and I was persecuted and detained and tortured. My experience at the Butler County Jail was more traumatizing than my detention in Egypt.
I got woken up in the middle of the night and they're like, Jasmine, you're leaving. I jump up, I'm like, I'm going home. And they're like, we're being transferred.
She said, we're gonna transfer you to Maine. I was like, Maine?
You're going to Arizona. I'm like, why am I going to Arizona? I begged every single guard for help. Can you please tell anyone, your supervisor, that I would love to pay for my flight home? Just get me out of it.
Are you looking for the most affordable way to add electric heating and cooling to your older home?
ICE issued a statement saying I was detained for not having legal documentation to be in the U.S. I do not support anyone being in a country illegally. I had all my paperwork. I was in the immigration office. I was never in the country illegally.
Since the green card is a privilege, not a right. And under our nation laws, our government has the authority to revoke a green card if a law is broken and abused. In my early 20s, I was young.
We know who that statement's from. That's from Marco Rubio.
I was in college. I got in trouble for possession of marijuana. I was pardoned. It was dismissed. It's been years. And I have renewed my green card twice. Never had an issue with immigration.
USCIS obtained evidence that indicated you provided material support to a Tier 3 terrorist organization. I volunteered with a nonprofit that took care of orphans and poor and sick people in Egypt. So basically, they tried to link this nonprofit, which is the most reputable, respected nonprofit, to a Tier 3 undesignated terrorist organization. This is how they framed it.
I don't feel like this was a mistake. I feel like this was on purpose.
That is not a rare case. This is systematic.
They are just grabbing anyone that they can.
They're trying to find ways to deport as many people, even if these people were here legally.
Not knowing what's gonna happen to me, I feel like that was the worst. Cause I wanted just to call my husband. I wanted to hear my kids, and my kids are okay, During the time that I was there, it was also my daughter's birthday. I felt like they took that away from me. I was scared they were gonna forget me.
I was put on solitary confinement for 6 days for advocating for myself and the other Muslim inmates to have a quiet space to pray. That's when my mental health started to deteriorate too fast. It's just a matter of time we'll get deported and get killed in Egypt. That was the thing that I couldn't get out of my mind. I'll just get deported and get killed.
I had a medical check and I had to go visit this nurse. She could tell that I was distraught and confused, and she looked at me and she goes, "Can I pray for you?" And she said this like beautiful prayer in Spanish that I have no idea what she was saying. And I just cried and I cried and I cried, and she just held my hands, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get through this.
An officer called and said, "Pack your stuff."
Where am I going? Just pack your stuff.
I was transferred back to the San Diego prison.
It's a 2-hour drive.
Someone just grabbed me and said, "You're coming with me this way."
She's like, "Yeah, I'll call her. She's being released today." My eyes just like, what?
Said, "You are released." I actually forget what the word released mean in English. To be honest, it's just, I didn't, what do you mean by you're released? I was in a shock.
They stripped the chains off of me quickly, snuck me into the airport, escort me onto the plane, sit me down, and they're like, "Okay, you're free. You can use your cell phone now. Take care."
And they're kind of like outside, and I did not know where to go. I didn't have a phone.
An officer said, "We just got this letter today. The Department of Homeland Security reinstated your asylum status." It was the happiest moment of my entire life. So the first thing we did was to drive to the mosque. Then we went out to eat in a Palestinian restaurant. I ate a lot.
I was happy to see my husband. I was more happy to see my girls. No offense. The youngest one was having nightmare, kept waking up. So I knew they needed me. And just kind of reassure them I'm okay. Even though it's still hard for me. It's still fragile.
I am a different person than the person that got detained. I lost my job that I love. I lost my health insurance. Was not able to finish my degree, all because I got detained for 73 days.
I was so lucky to have only been in there for 2 weeks. Can you imagine someone in the system that doesn't have my privilege, all the lawyers, all the money, all my connections? Majority of the women that I met have been in there for months. I received a 5-year ban from America. Everyone asked me, they're like, "Well, you're never gonna go back, are you?" I'm appealing. I wanna go back. I love America.
I am in the process now of getting my citizenship.
I still love the American people, but I'm doubting if I ever feel safe and call the United States my home. I don't think this government will stop.
Your government is funding a system that doesn't follow any rules.
Immigrants will be the first target. After that, we'll target any opposition. Violating due process this time means they will violate it again and again and again.
The more you stay home, the less you want to leave. And the more you stay, the heavier everything feels.
Hello? Yes, I'd like to speak to Congress, please. I'm on hold. But I'm trying to reach Congress on behalf of the Kingdom of Denmark. Now, my first language is Danish, but I figured I'd do this in English since I know how some of you Americans feel about people who speak foreign languages.
You have to speak English.
Anyway, the reason I'm reaching out is the northern part of the kingdom, namely Greenland, the world's largest distraction. The world's largest island. But listen, we here in the Kingdom of Denmark are getting a very Venezuelan vibe about the way the American president is talking about us right now.
We're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
So, what do you do when an employee goes rogue? Well, what I've learned, mainly from watching American TV shows, you ask to speak to the manager. And in Trump's case, that will be Congress. I mean, they can control the budget, they can hold investigations, they can even fire him. But they seem to be sleeping on the job.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
Hence my phone call. But while I'm on hold, maybe we can talk, America? To start, let's look at a map. This is Greenland. Roughly 50,000 Greenlanders live there, and it's not green at all. It's white. It's all white. Maybe that's why that Stephen Miller guy loves it so much. This is Denmark. Almost 2,000 miles away. 6 million Danes live here. We do minimalism, we do Lego, we do hygge, we do the fat shot. That's us. Now, Denmark and Greenland are not the same country, but we are in a relationship. We share a king, but we have individual governments. We are very different, but we make it work. To put it in American terms, we're like Trump and Melania. We're formally together, functionally separate, and both pretending it's very normal. America and Denmark actually go way back. We usually follow blindly whenever you guys feel like invading a country. We did it with the Gulf War, we did it with Afghanistan, we did it with Iraq. Coalition of the willing.
We will lead a coalition of willing nations to disarm him.
We were the willing. But this time, we can't help you. Because you're talking about invading a country that we already invaded. Look, we already know how colonialism ends. We've seen this film before.
India in revolt. Protesters smoked out by the police.
Here's why invading Greenland, the easy way or the hard way, would be bad for America and for the world. I think I need some fresh air. Danish missionaries invaded Greenland in 1721, slowly taking over the country. And for 250 years, we did whatever we wanted to. Basically going full colonial on them. Even in the 20th century, we were inserting IUDs into Greenlandic women to limit the population. We were separating Greenlandic children from their families, sending them to Denmark. Horrible stuff. We even let America build military bases in Greenland. During the Cold War, you guys had 10,000 troops based there. You even crashed a B-52 carrying 4 nuclear bombs there in 1968. Remember?
The hunt is on to locate the missing nuclear weapons.
So, what did we Danes learn from the past couple of centuries? Well, the obvious. No population is going to be happy with a foreign government ruling over them. The Greenlanders hated us for centuries. Some still do. So Trump invading Greenland is not gonna help America's place on the global stage. Or at home. And I know he says he's the most popular president in the most popular country since the dawn of time.
I'm a very stable genius.
But trust me, he's not. And going old school colonial on Greenland is not gonna help. Anyway, back to the history lesson. In 1979, Greenland voted for greater autonomy from Denmark and to form its own government. And this is important because Trump keeps talking about buying Greenland.
The fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land.
Denmark doesn't own Greenland anymore. Greenland owns Greenland. Us Danes even asked the Greenlanders how they feel about being bought.
300,000 kroner.
No, he could never buy us. Ever in my life, I would...
500,000?
No.
You see, we know the Greenlanders. They're a proud indigenous people who are not interested in being Americans. You can't just buy them off. So, Trump is running wild. He's kidnapping presidents, he's invading other countries without congressional approval, and frankly, we don't want that mess spilling into Greenland. Or Europe. Or Legoland, for that matter. So again, that's why we're trying to speak to the manager. But Congress still isn't picking up the phone. Hello?
The Americans are determined to retrieve their bombs.
I'm sorry, I had to watch it. I love Hagee. He's a great comedian. All right, guys, let's go to the next clip.
Caroline Leavitt was on TV saying that it was one of the best speeches she's ever heard, and Stephen Colbert respond to this. I just want to show you real fast, like, this is a little bit of what Donald Trump did last night.
I know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Right, so he meant Greenland. I mean, there's been no talk about Iceland, okay? I'm not even gonna pretend like that's a real thing that he's been. But anyways, Caroline Leavitt said, no, he didn't. Libby said during his WF remarks, President Trump appeared to mix up. I'm going to pretend like that's a real thing that he's been. But anyways, Caroline Leavitt said, no. He didn't. Libby said during his WF remarks, President Trump appeared to mix up Greenland and Iceland. Caroline Leavitt, this is like credibility destroying, in my opinion. She said, no, he didn't. Libby, his written remarks refer to Greenland as piece of ice because that's what it is. You're the one mixing anything up here. I mean, this is just epic levels of cope. This is like a level of lying that I just find astonishing. And she went even further yesterday on Fox.
Meeting with today and discussing with. And I know they were all very pleased with his speech. I was in the room, John, and it has rave reviews because the president just tells it like it is. And he came here with his America First vision on full display, talking about how the American economy is booming once again through massive deregulation, an energy boom, the president fulfilling his promise to drill, baby, drill. You look at the tax cuts he signed into law, all of these things coming together to put together a really exceptional American economy. And I think he's really inspiring a lot of leaders in Europe to take that same approach. The Green New Scam energy failed policies of Europe and mass migration are failing these great countries. And so I think the president really struck an inspirational tone with all of them today, but of course that has yet to be seen if they will act accordingly.
Let's just look. No cross. I'm not seeing a cross. I'm not seeing a cross today. As one commentator said, this is very funny. One person said, I don't think Caroline Leavitt could get her tongue any further into Donald Trump's asshole if she tried. Though I bet you wish she could. I bet you wish, no matter how far up it goes, she wishes it could go even further. Now, responding to that was Stephen Colbert late last night, who said that.
Oh my God, Keith, really? Oh my God, that's a crazy comment, Keith.
When one of the journalists who was attending the summit at Davos, a woman named Libby Dean, tweeted that Trump called Greenland Iceland multiple times, Caroline Leavitt responded, no, he didn't, Libby. His written remarks referred to Greenland as a piece of ice because that's what it is.
It's very comforting hearing other people boo. It can feel very lonely sometimes, even though we are here together. I'm here by myself, and you're probably watching by yourself. And it's very nice to hear a crowd of people boo this bullshit.
You're the only one mixing anything up here. That is some grade A Big Brother propaganda. As George Orwell wrote in 1984, war is peace, freedom is slavery. Caroline Leavitt is a dumbass. Yes.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, it's not surprising. It's not shocking that they lie so brazenly. But that's one reason why, no matter what they say, I just do not believe it either way. Whether it's something I want to hear, whether it's something I don't want to hear. These are people who lie without any hesitation. They lie as easily as you and I speak the truth. And someone like that, you cannot trust. Cannot trust. But the American people are becoming sick of it. And something that's hopeful for me is I was actually reading, I listened to a podcast yesterday with this scholar, Jeremy Stanley. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't. He was a professor at Yale. He moved to Canada out of fear of fascism. I don't know if I think that's great, like we should stay here and fight for our country. That's beside the point. But
He said, though Donald Trump has met his control over most of the levers of power, where he doesn't feel like he needs public support anymore to do the things he needs to do, he is not a popular figure. And that is one thing on our side, is that we, though he's going to, he might have done all this stuff too fast. He might have done it too fast, and the American people might not stand for it. So the booing is energizing. It's also reassuring. This is also reassuring. We saw 2 days ago, Justin Jones on Fox News destroying Sean Hannity on his own show.
Immigrants in your state, can you? You never picked up a phone and got off your ass to talk to one constituent ever, to talk to them and give them condolences because you are made us pay attention
to the CEOs taking their health care, letting their farms close. You don't care about the American people. You're distracting from the real issue. You want to be afraid of immigrants because all you have is fear, Sean. You want people to be fearful. The pain is real. It's not immigrants. It's the corporate CEOs who are screwing them over and making so that they cannot afford groceries in their health care. That's who we need to go after. This is not the American.
Let me tell you what your rhetoric is doing.
The America I believe in does not look like masked men targeting. Shameful.
Okay. Let me tell you what you're doing. When you compare our ICE,
They called me daddy, right, last time. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Iceland. Well, here's Trump's arch nemesis, Gavin Newsomes, and his take on it.
No other president, he's held to the curve. He's graded on a curve. I mean, it's really some jaw-dropping and remarkable statements that just, fly in the face of facts and evidence and common sense.
Tara Palmieri is here with us at the table. Tara, is he graded on a curve?
Oh, yeah, that is just like mental sludge. No one that goes to the World Economic Forum speaks like that, just off the cuff, blasting out just complete false stats and just insults everyone. It's just a very refined crowd. I mean, it is the elites, but they come prepared. They're not just like riffing. I mean, this was just stream of consciousness, insanity, and we're supposed to be taken seriously?
TW, how do we explain this?
That's Donald Trump. That's the reason he got 77 million votes and was twice elected.
So if Joe Biden were to have done that and mistaken Greenland for Iceland,
Joe Biden
you guys would have been calling 25th Amendment. You guys would have been calling for his impeachment.
If he did his Trump impression?
If he gave word for word the same speech that Donald Trump gave today,
it would be the most backbone he has shown in
would
front of a large international.
Men in white uniforms would have rushed the stage and put him into a straitjacket and put him in a padded room for the rest of the day.
I'm not going to go there. Joe Biden's mental acuity or whatever.
But for real, TW, honestly.
Yeah.
The President of the United States, on 4 separate occasions, mixed up Greenland with Iceland. He made up statistics about all sorts of things. How is that not something that is of concern to everybody
Because
in this country?
Because this is the same speech he would have given last year, the year before that. This is his brand. This is the type of
He wanted to
leader he is.
invade Greenland, and he called it Iceland. They looked at plans. They're talking about a framework for that. Iceland These are serious conversations.
The disappointing part about the tenor of this conversation is that we laugh it off and we excuse it as just Donald Trump, or he's something he would have done before. The comparison I look at is that Donald Trump's mental acuity, even before he aged, was mediocre at best. It's somebody who came from a failed business background. It's somebody who believes that they were born, that they hit a home run, they were born on third base. His daddy gave him $1 million to start his business, right? This is somebody who's failed and failed and failed. The people around him, Lindsay Halligan can't even call herself a United States lawyer anymore. Mediocre at best. Dr. Oz is making decisions about CMS. Elon Musk has no idea about bureaucracy and government. Let me finish. Elon Musk has no idea about bureaucracy and government. You let him dissemble USAID. You're talking about RFK, the man who says he has a
worm that ate his brain is now having a measles outbreak in South Carolina because he is over our health and human services. See, my biggest problem is that Barack Obama, for example, Barack Obama had to be editor-in-chief of the Harvard Law Review. Barack Obama had to be a United States senator. You all gave Barack Obama hell because he had a selfie stick and wore a brown suit. But yet and still, this man comes on stage in front of the world and he rambles and he misspeaks and he says this. And he could have said that we solved the war between Wakanda and Namor, right? And the Republicans would have been like, oh yeah, I'm glad we stopped that African country.
Can we just agree that men over 80 start to ramble and sound crazy, and that is why we also got a lot of slip-ups from Biden?
He's been rambling for a lot longer than that. Let me just play this is Ty Cobb, Trump's former lawyer, talking.
This is primarily the reason why I believe the next president is going to be young. Because, like America, we have a history of doing this, right? We have a history of putting, like, elderly men in the presidency. This is just something that we've done. So, let's see. We already know J.D. Vance's age, right? So, let's see. Let's say J.D. is presidential nominee 2028. And let's see if on the Democratic side is somebody like Gavin, right? Why am I on here? All right, so Gavin's 58. All right, so Gavin's relatively young. If we were comparing him to President Trump, how old is President Trump? Is he 78? Like, is he 79? Because if he's 78, then he's 20 years older than Gavin. Why am I having like a brain? 79. Okay. Why am I having a brain fart? So you're actually 21 years older than Gavin. He's 21 years older than Gavin, and JD's 40. Right, and he might have been 41, which would put Gavin Newsomes 17 years older than JD. So, I think we would see a substantial dip here. I'm not saying Gavin Newsom is necessarily going to be the president in 2028 or JD Vance. I just did that to show, the point that they made is, is it safe to say that men over 80 start to talk a little cray-cray, right? And I would say, yeah, there's probably something to that. I'm not saying that at over 80 that they're not sound. I'm not saying that. I'm sure it depends. Maybe if they were in a job that was less stressful. But I would say the president, I would dare to say the presidency could be pretty stressful. So maybe at 80, it might be a little bit much on somebody, right? We'll experience something significantly different having a president, let's just say, for instance, if Gavin Newsom were to win being 21 years younger than Donald Trump, or if J.D. Vance were to win being 17 years younger than Gavin Newsom, which would put him substantially younger than Donald Trump, right? So, yeah, we would see a difference there, and I think we'll still see some crazy talk even in those age brackets, but different. It won't be what people are making fun of as people start to age, which I really can't stand it, but they've done it with the last two presidents, and it's kind of getting on my nerve at this point.
To Aaron Burnett tonight about what he saw today.
This is a man who is demented, and his narcissism has run amok. And I don't think there's anybody outside the boundaries of the United States who believes for a second that Trump is sane at this stage of the game, and those in the United States are merely in denial or so invested in him they can't accept what their lying eyes tell them.
Your health deserves more than guesswork. At Prenuvo, our whole body MRI scans for hundreds.
And some of those people that he's talking about are also telling Americans not to see what they actually saw. Caroline Levitt flat out denied that he mixed up Greenland and Iceland. He said his written remarks referred to Greenland as a piece of ice because that's what's in it. You're the one.
He was calling Greenland Iceland.
Yeah, look, I'm just, I don't know. I'm sorry, but Caroline Levitt is straight up lying there. Is she expecting Americans to believe that the piece of paper said a piece of ice and then Trump said Iceland 4 times?
It's funny, and obviously everything you said is correct. He messed up, he called it Iceland. I've never once heard him say the word Azerbaijan correctly, but that doesn't mean that he did not bring peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Like, the fact that he cannot be bothered to pronounce it correctly doesn't mean that the record isn't there. It doesn't mean that he didn't cut our deficit by 20% in 1 year. It doesn't mean that he didn't actually bring $18 trillion committed.
It actually does mean, I mean,
no,
look,
it doesn't.
The White House's own, hold on. The White House's own website, Batia, says that major investment announcements during this Trump term was $9.6 trillion. So even his own administration is saying that is not true.
That's the website, but I can tell you who has made the
so much. I don't know what to say. All I'm saying is that
they are built into the actual trade deals,
does
like
not seem
South
to be
Korea,
tethered by
Saudi Arabia, the UAE. I'm literally reciting facts to you of things that he's done, and you're telling me like, I'm trying to recite the actual list of accomplishments.
This is not an example. This is not a debate about his accomplishments.
For example, banning banks from owning a single family
It's actually not a debate about his accomplishments. It's a debate about whether he can give a speech while actually telling the truth.
But that's
the question.
What Gavin Newsomes said was that he gets rated on a curve. And I think that there is no discussion that Donald Trump gets away with doing things and saying things that no other normal president or human being would get away with. He's amassed a $1.4 billion
It's a record that you guys won't.
You're absolutely correct about that. I remember that from 5th grade. Iceland is green, Greenland is ice. Just remember that, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. Up next.
Rules, commands, MCP servers, subagents, modes, hooks, tools. There's a lot of stuff, and I don't think it needs to be this complex. So I want to talk.
This is an important broadcast. It will teach you a lot about not only the conflict in Minneapolis with ICE, but the world. And I'm going to go through this in a very methodical way. We always want your feedback. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. Now, as you know, our mantra is people believe what they want to believe. And that's about 90% of the population, the human population. So, you know, facts, not a lot of facts matter. It's all emotion. They believe what they want to believe. So within minutes of this terrible shooting in Minneapolis, people were forming sides. All right, the left, which does not want immigration enforcement, they were demonizing ICE, and the right, which does want the federal government to control illegal immigration, was demonizing the left and some, but not too many, the actual victim herself, who was a leftist. Okay, now I'm going to go right through this in the talking points memo. So obviously, up top, anybody celebrating the death of another human being needs to see a psychiatrist. So let's get that out of the way, virtue signaling, whatever you want to label it, nobody should be dead. And it didn't have to happen. And it happened because of bad decision making. That's why this woman, in which she was, and she had parked her car to try to impede federal agents. That is a terrible decision, particularly when you have 3 children. Now, I'm not blaming her for her death. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying that bad decisions lead to bad outcomes.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? If so...
All right? There's no reason on earth why that woman should have put herself in that kind of jeopardy. And if you're watching me tonight anywhere in the world do the same thing, you're likely to get hurt and you may die. You do not impede authorities on the job. Anywhere, anytime. You do not do that. That's not protest. Now, right after the woman was killed, you had this unbelievable far-left garbage saying that she was a legal observer or some kind of crazy stuff. She was not. She's breaking the law. That's obstruction of justice, which she did. All right? Now, The most important thing that I have said so far in this whole reportage, I repeated last night on Cuomo. Roll the tape.
Well, number one, I'm not going to second guess the law officer. That's cheap, and I'm not going to do it. All right, I was mayor, and anybody doing that should reevaluate. Number two, this is a story about bad decisions. And in your life and everybody's life, if you make a number of bad decisions, you're going to pay the price.
Okay, so I do not think it is fair for anybody to condemn that officer who shot Ms. Good. What you would need to make a decision on that is enhanced videotape. As you sit in a room, it would go frame by frame from every angle. And then you would need to hear the agent himself testify what his state of mind was. These are split-second decisions. It really angers me. I'll tell you what, you see these people on television do this? I really think it's so immoral, but I'm not doing it. Okay? I am not doing it. I have been in situations, wife death, guns involved. Okay? I know the adrenaline flow. I am not going to pass judgment on that man. Not. And I didn't pass judgment on Ms. Good either. I just said it was a bad decision for her to be in a car impeding a federal investigation, blocking it. Now, the bad decision-making goes back to Joe Biden. That's where it goes. That is the genesis of this story. So you allow millions of people unsupervised to come into the United States, you're going to have a criminal element come in. And they're going to kill people, which they have. And therefore, your decision-making, Mr. Biden, has led to death and destruction. And has led to now President Trump having to correct your terrible decision by employing federal authorities to arrest and deport criminal aliens and others who are not in this country illegally. Remember, they all have to have a warrant. But the ICE is not making that decision on the street. They're going after criminal aliens, okay? And if there are other non-criminal aliens with them, they get swept up. That all goes back to Joe Biden. That bad decision that he made, probably the worst presidential decision of all time, has led to this woman's death yesterday. In addition, the people who run states like California, Illinois, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and others made a decision not to obey federal law. We are not going to obey federal law. This is rebellion. That's what it is. It's like what South Carolina and other southern states did in the 1850s. We are going to rebel against the federal government. There is an immigration law. We are not going to uphold it. And Minnesota is perhaps the worst because they won't even cooperate when criminal migrants are involved. That decision-making on the part of Governor Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry in Minneapolis did contribute to the death of Ms. Good because those two men incited Ms. Good. How did they do that? Well, listen to for yourself. Go.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart.
You know, very early on in President Trump's first term, I discussed this with him, and I said, look, you have a case that you can make against these sanctuary states. The Justice Department can sue them for big money. And that's what should have happened. It did not. It didn't happen.
But there's no question that Walz and Fry are inciting, right, actions against the federal government. Of course they are. You can't deny that. Who can deny that? And this poor woman is caught up in that hysteria. Now on to the Trump administration. When you have a $9 billion fraud perpetrated by a number of illegal migrants from Somalia, when $9 billion is stolen from the American taxpayer, you have an obligation to send Homeland Security agents to the site where the $9 billion fraud took place. That's not an option. That's an obligation. Now, Walz and Fry, they don't care about the $9 billion. They looked the other way. They had to know. They had to know. And they allowed it. So you can't deal with them. They're in rebellion against the United States. So President Trump orders 2,000 ICE into Minneapolis to not only round up criminal aliens, and these Somalis who participated in this fraud are criminal aliens, but to impose a kind of order in Minneapolis, which is lacking. Though, if you want to make an equivalency, you can't, because the President of the United States, it can be anybody. There's an obligation to stop a $9 billion fraud. Expose it, prosecute it. Then you have unbelievable media, and I'm not going to get into that today, who, again, they follow the PAC, and the PAC hates Trump. So the bad decision-making is, we're not going to try to find out what happened. We're just going to condemn Trump and everything he does. Then you have a de-escalation order. Now remember, every police agency in the country, local, state, and feds, the agency teaches to de-escalate any kind of potential life-threatening situation. That's a fact. Now, you people who are on the side, if you want to use that phraseology, of the police, have to know that. The ICE agents in this case did not de-escalate. They didn't. And that's a fact. Now, I'm not condemning anybody. I'm just saying that de-escalation is the rule of the land in police agencies. A lot of people don't understand that. And that did not happen in Minneapolis yesterday. Okay, so all of these things were swirling around when I went on News Nation last night with the three Americans, Cuomo, Stephen A. Smith, and myself.
Hey Steve, this is Ken with 302 House Buyers. Thanks for recording this testimonial. Just got a few questions wanted to ask you. First of all, would you mind kind of tell us, from the very beginning of your home selling journey until today, and just tell me everything about your experience with the process?
Yeah, the process was very simple, easy. I mean, you always have concerns when you start doing something like this. Actually, I helped sell this property for my in-laws. Ken came out, gave us a estimate. We talked back and forth and settled in a very short amount of time, which was very important to us. All the paperwork, all the communication was simple and easy. I would certainly recommend his business to anybody that's in the same situation trying to sell a property.
I appreciate that, Steve. Why did you choose to go with this? Or why did you guys decide to go with this?
I wish I had a definite answer. For me, it was just a feel. We had 5 or 6 different companies come through and look. Just the honesty of Ken talking to us outright, communication, not leaving us hanging, getting it back to us right away.
Right.
Honesty was the big thing for us.
Right. I definitely appreciate that. That's what we try to do, be upfront and honest with everyone we talk to. Would you recommend us to House Buyers to any other sellers who might want to sell their house?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing for us that there was just no trouble, no pain. It was a very simple process, very quick process, and like I said, everything was up front. Constant communication, which was big. Very, very happy with what went on.
Right. Yeah. And
Roll the tape.
Bill O'Reilly, may I chime in and speak? May I chime in and speak to you directly, Bill? Here's where I'm disappointed, Bill. Here's where I'm disappointed, Bill, in your response. So you can have an opinion about her, but you can't have an opinion about the officer, even though you've seen the video numerous times. You've seen the video. I've watched it 10 times.
I can't put myself in his shoes. I think it's irresponsible to do that.
Okay.
Because I don't know the state of mind of the man when a vehicle is coming at him. It's irresponsible to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. I'm coming to you. Let me be irresponsible. A 37-year-old woman, she wasn't coming down the street going 90 miles an hour. She was stationary. She was still. And then she took off. So you had to move out the way as she was taking off, okay? And you shoot her in the head?
Let me reply to that. I'm for de-escalation. I support de-escalation. In every kind of a situation, not just this. I don't want to see anybody die. All right? So if I were there, I'd like to think that I would have tried to de-escalate. But it's not fair of me because I don't know the state of mind of the officer when he sees a vehicle lurch forward, and I'm not going to condemn it. I am not going to do that. No matter how many videos you show. Show it to a grand jury, a federal grand jury, and let them decide after forensics and this and that, and hearing the officer. Okay.
What she did is not worthy of the death penalty, but it's about where you start the chain of causation, Stephen A., with about why they were there in the first place. Well, I wanted to throw out this question to Bill, in all honesty, because I appreciate his candor. I don't agree with his position totally, but I respect it, and I respect where he's coming from. What I would ask you in return is this, Bill. So, of course, where things start, that matters. And we understand that. That was instigated by her actions. Some people on the left will say it's instigated by ICE because they shouldn't be there, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going there.
Stephen A., you got a big vehicle coming at you from 10 feet away. That's a situation.
Because he was right in front of the car.
And let the people deliberate on it. There is a system. All right? And I will trust what the people in the federal grand jury or whatever forum decide. Not us. And that's the right way to handle this. Now, there is a report that the federal government is not turning over all the evidence to the local authorities in Minnesota. I'm not surprised by that. The FBI does not trust law enforcement in Minneapolis. They simply don't trust it. And neither do I. Because they're under the orders of Walz. And Walz is a fanatical anti-Trump in rebellion to the United States guy. That's the truth. All right. Now, going forward, the Trump administration is not going to capitulate to this, and they shouldn't. There has to be order. The laws have to be enforced. But the sanctuary places, you got to take action against them. You got to stop this. All right, these sanctuary people, the FBI should interview Jacob Fry and Governor Walz and say, look, you're on the verge of incitement here and rebellion here. That's where you are. Because that's where the truth. You can't have this. And we had it before the Civil War. And anybody who's read my book, Killing Lincoln or Confronting the Presidents, knows it. You can't allow this stuff. Or you're not going to have a country. Okay. So finally, we're going to stay on a story. And on Monday, we'll encapsulate it again. But I'm going to offer mass for both the victim and the officer on Sunday. I want you to know that. And that's a memo. If you had one holiday wish, would you wish to be debt-free? Well, I may have a solution for you. Before year-end, credit card and loan companies close out their books, meaning lenders might be able to open negotiations, which gives you leverage. And done with debt, knows how to use that to negotiate hard on your behalf. They monitor lender trends and pressures to help you escape from crushing debt without bankruptcy or new loans. From month one, Done with Debt works to reduce your total debt, leave you with more money every month. Start now because your leverage may disappear at year end. Chat for free with a Done with Debt specialist at donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. And don't forget to tell them O'Reilly sent you.
If you want to have an extraordinary quality of life, if you'd like to take 2026 and make it your best year ever, it won't happen.
Jeffrey Halstead joins us from Las Vegas. He is associated with the Genesis operation. It's an emergency management company. Mr. Halstead used to be the police chief of Fort Worth, Texas, big job. And then he went federal. Okay, also worked with a variety of state law enforcement agencies. So why do you think this is a big drop in particularly violent crime in the USA?
Thank you, Bill. It's a great opportunity to speak with you. So one of the true reasons you can see this is because we in the law enforcement culture had innovated, we had deployed technology, and we are working better together than ever before in the history of American policing.